Hello. Let's talk using Google Forms for real-time data collection. I've had a few requests for that. I think it's probably best done in a short video tutorial. So what do I mean by real-time data collection? Simply put, you're the teacher, the students are working on something, and you're walking around maybe taking notes on a piece of paper, and then though that paper gets lost somewhere or you have to re-record that information somewhere else, there is a way of using Google Forms to help you collect that data and then help you house it so that then when you actually need to use the data, you'll be able to do that. Okay, so let's dive into this. And you'll notice here I am on Google Drive. I mean, that's to me the easiest place. And we're going to go here to New. And we'll go down to More. And we're going to do Google Forms. Okay? And I like working in Drive because you notice what you can start in Google Drive. So I tend to not go to just straight Google Forms. I tend to start all of this in Drive. So I'm going to select Google Forms. And then you're left with this, and now keep in mind I'm focusing more on the use for real-time data collection, so some of the things I'm going to show you aren't difficult, but you may have to play around with it a little bit. So let's just call this real-time data. And then what you're going to do is start with your first question, which would be student names, would be my guess. Okay, so student names, and here you've got your list of choices for the kinds of questions that you can add. For this one, to make the form so that it's not super long, you want drop down. And what drop down is going to do is make your choice look like this, and then just as it says, you're going to click this, and it's going to drop down your student names. Okay? So there's a couple of ways you can enter student names here. You can type them in. You can go and export from PowerSchool and get a list of names. So I use this as a sample. So let's say this is your list of students. You can highlight them, copy them, and if you so like as option 1, so where I would normally put my first student name, if I paste that, what Google Forms does automatically, it's done this now for about a year, it will actually realize, it's machine learning, that okay, you want these in a list, and so it's pretty easy to populate. If you've not used Google Forms before, you have this required or not required. I would, with the name, I would make it required, because if you forget that, you've just messed up all your data because you're not going to know who it's for. This plus is where you add a question. Now here's where you're going to have to do some thinking. Because you don't have to require every question, you can think about, here's the kind of stuff I'm going to look at for real-time data. So understand, when I put something in here, you may say, well, I wouldn't want that. You would just go through and replace whatever you want. So let's say that you are looking for, well, let's say, I don't know. So let's say you're looking at participation. Now you have some options. And you can say, like, I would probably use a Likert scale or a linear scale. And I would say 1 to 5. You don't have to label it. If you're the only one, and that's the assumption I should mention, that this is for you. This isn't something the students are going to look at. You might show them the data. You can go, if you want to fine tune it a little bit more, 1 to 10, and then you could put low and you could put high, whatever you want. And then you could go through and maybe not require that, because maybe you're not, as you're walking around, you aren't going to evaluate participation every time. So you put another question in there. And then maybe you say questions. And you do the same thing. Or if you say, well, you know what, I kind of like this Likert scale, so I'm going to get rid of this question. And I'm going to select this and say duplicate. So now all I have to do is put this in. And again, I don't know that I would require it, because if you're not assessing that every time, then you wouldn't need it. And you could literally just keep building this form. And the more advanced that you get with this, or the more detailed you want to be, you can actually go in and create sections. So under participation, you could have a variety of these Likert scales underneath it. If you are a speech teacher, you're evaluating a presentation, you could have one of these that is a presentation form, and you can put your rubric right in here. So hopefully that makes sense. These you build the way that you want. I would try to make it as generic as possible, but as usable as possible. Okay, so with that being said, here's what ends up happening. So if we click in where it says Untitled Form, it should title that Real-Time Data. And now we go and we view this, and this is what we're going to see. And so here's the drop-down. And so if you are, now we're on a computer, but I'm going to show you on an iPad how to make this readily available, but it's the same idea. Okay, I'm trying to assess Liz, and I'm going to say she's at a 5, and then a 3 here, and I'm going to submit. And what you're going to get is this: submit another response, and then you're going to go, okay, now I'm watching Bob, and he was an 8, but a 1, whoops, but a 1 here. Okay? So, here's what becomes nice about this. When you go in and you go back to the form where you were editing, now you will look here and you have 2 responses. And you can start to see overall where your classes are. So this data becomes valuable in that you can see that, wow, my class is really, I'm evaluating them like a 2 through a 5. And so we need to work on this participation to figure out how are we going to get them here. Or you can look at this in a spreadsheet view, and sometimes the spreadsheet, kind of freaks people out. You can look at it in a spreadsheet view, and then you can look at it, and you can start to see, okay, so here's Liz and here's Bob. But let's say that you've done this for 20 days or in 9 weeks, you're going to have many, many lines on this spreadsheet. Then, and it's kind of hard to show here, but you can go in and sort by, I can go here and say, well, I want to do data, I want to create a filter, and I want to go by student names, and I only want to see Liz. And now it just has Liz. And then you can even get more detailed, and these are the kind of things that you can talk to me about and I can help you with. You can even go through and say, okay, well, if I were to average all of this, or do the mode, or because the average isn't the only way to take a grade, you could then say, I want to see how is she doing in participation. You can color code these so that anytime a 1 through a 5 appears, this color, all of those things are, if you get into it and you're like, I really like this, I can fairly easily show you how to do those types of things. But in your form, you can then, if 3 weeks down the road you're like, man, I wish I would have put another one here, you can go in and add another one. It doesn't have to be a Likert scale. So if you're doing another question, you have, and I put this in the wrong order, if you put it in the wrong order, you can even go through here and you can say, I want this one now first. I mean, you can have multiple choice. So if there is, I don't know, a multiple choice versus a linear scale, you can get into a multiple choice grid and a checkbox grid. All of those are things that you can, kind of play around with. So now you have the form. And it's this beautiful form, and you want to fill this out, but you want to be able to walk around and you want to be able to put it on your iPad. So here's what I would suggest doing. The first thing you need to do is take a look at how you want to get notified of things. So with this one, probably if you go to responses and you select the 3 dots, you can get notified of all new responses But I would imagine in this situation you wouldn't want to do it because you're going to be the one filling out the form, or it might be a co-teacher that you have. So here's what I would do. I would go to the send button, and I wouldn't, because you're going to be the one filling it out, automatically collect respondent's Morton email address. Now, let's say that you're in a situation where you're going to have 4 people filling this out. Like you've got a co-teacher and an aide or whatever. You might select this so that when they fill it out, it automatically captures their email and you know who did the evaluation. But you're going to go here to this link, and then you're going to copy this. And you copy it. And then I would go and I'll see if I can, you're going to compose an email. Let's move this over here. And you're going to just put an email to yourself, and you're going to paste that link in. Right? The next part of this, what I'll do is it'll transition to it. I'll show you on the iPad. You'll open up the mail on your iPad, and then the next step will be, how do you get that link to reside on your iPad so you don't have to continually type in that link? So I'm going to do that. Hopefully this helps a little bit. If you have more questions, if you want to get more detailed into the kind of functionality of what you can do with all the data, by all means, make sure that you email me, and I will be more than happy to help you with it. So good luck on designing your form. All right, I'll show you how to very quickly add your Google form to your iPad so you can just keep going back to it. Very simple process. So you open it up, you make sure that in Safari you are on what you're wanting to see. So this is the form. Let's say this is the form you want. You're going to go up here and do the share sheet, the square with the arrow pointing up, and then you're going to go over to the side here and you're going to do add to home screen. You can name it, whatever you want, and then hit add, and now you'll see that it is right there. And so now when you tap on that, you're going to get here. If you have, you choose you do whatever, and then you do submit. The next time when you open it up, it's going to come up like this. You just do submit another response. So again, a very easy way. I think that's something worth showing students as well, because any website, they can create this add to home screen.